Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are joining us from around the world. Welcome to Web3 Warriors, where we talk all things blockchain and Web3 in this new exciting creator economy built on the blockchain. And this is episode 24 featuring Kofi Obuobi, who's joining us from Germany, and really excited to hear what he's got going on. I'm really looking forward to an update. He's our first guest to rejoin us from season 1. It's really exciting, a really inspiring collection that I speak to and allude to often when I talk about the impact of the blockchain. So I want to welcome everyone. I'm Krome, or David Krome, go by Krome in the metaverse. This is Web3 Warriors, where we interview amazing creators that are building out here on the blockchain, in the Web3 space, in the metaverse, and really just making the most of this new NFT potential and really bringing their creativity into this new economic environment and making an interesting name for themselves. So on today's episode, we really want to talk about the impact of arts and culture on the blockchain, and specifically, taking pieces of culture that maybe were at risk of being lost or are just not well known and maybe need to be shared a little bit more wider for people to gain the knowledge that comes with it and really the respect for the culture that comes with it. So with Kofi's collection, of course, the 3D African masks that are very impressive and really highlight a whole lot of culture across the African continent, take stories from different tribes and the stories behind these masks that in some cases were stigmatized and really misunderstood for a long time. Or when I look at locally where I'm at in Canada and across North America and South America, frankly, the indigenous causes that continue to be underway on the continent, trying to create some reconciliation, trying to create some awareness about the plight of indigenous people, First Nations people in Canada specifically, and looking at the NFT space, looking at the blockchain space and what could be done here. There's a lot of talk about languages being lost. So those languages could be minted on the blockchain and ensured that they're never lost. There's a lot of talk about artifacts that are very old, centuries old, and they don't want to lose them or have them possibly continue to degrade, so there's a potential to scan these artifacts, whether it's with LiDAR or any other way of kind of 3D scanning them in perfect precision onto the blockchain so that even if they deteriorate in real life, the actual digital representation of these important artifacts can be minted and kept forever. There's also the topic of clothing, traditional clothing, whether it's actually wearing them as wearables in the metaverse. In some cases, that might be all right. But even some traditional clothing is sacred, or seen as not something you would just casually, wear here and there and everywhere. But they want to preserve those stories and preserve the story behind those clothing, like, for example, an indigenous headdress for the chief, for example, being able to actually 3D scan that in onto the blockchain and have it be immutable forever and attach the story that is behind that headdress and really mint it on the blockchain. It just adds a whole new level of preserving culture and preserving history. And I think the first person to really show me the potential of what's possible there was Kofi with this 3D African Masks project, and I've seen a few others that could definitely lean on the culture and lean on diversity and lean on trying to tell some more of these stories. Ancient Warriors project is one that comes to mind, where they were really trying to talk about both the Inca indigenous history and then also the Benin indigenous history, which is part of Nigeria, and they have really interesting history there. And they created an actual PFP collection around that, around telling those stories of both the Inca and the Benin and kind of playing off of it. So that was another example of taking those cultural stories that are really misunderstood or just not known at all and being able to kind of reframe them in this new Web3 space and tell them in a way that you're proud about your culture, but you're also informing other people who maybe don't know anything about your culture. So it's really exciting to kind of look at that intersection of arts and culture and the blockchain. And today, what else we're going to look at is how that intersection is actually impacting IRL galleries, and the real traditional art space. Looking at Kofi and what he's doing, he's in Germany right now, and it's a perfect example. We hear a lot about traditional artists coming into the space, into NFTs and Web3, and being able to kind of bring their community in, bring their collectors in maybe, and make waves. And that's awesome. That's a huge opportunity there. But what I think is not shown as much is the potential for artists who have actually not been maybe as successful, or maybe even didn't have a resume built in the traditional art world, but are able to find success in the NFT space. And Kofi is another perfect example of this, and actually resonate with people in the traditional art world because of what you're doing on the blockchain. And then to be invited to maybe showcase your art in the traditional IRL art space because of what you've done on the blockchain. So I think that's a really exciting opportunity. It's a part that I don't think is seen quite as often. So we have this amazing guest here with Kofi to be able to kind of tell us a little bit about how that happened to him, and maybe his thoughts on other artists who are in the space, and the potential for this to be a more consistent thing, you know, where the blockchain actually pushes the narrative for the traditional space, and for you know, IRL galleries that want to be part of that narrative but maybe didn't have an entry point before, and now they're saying, hey, look at this guy, he's making amazing, you know, masks on the blockchain, and he's telling these stories that are so prolific and historically relevant. You know, we have to have this in our gallery, right? So with that in mind, it's just really exciting. I want to thank you again, Kofi, for joining us for the second time. It's amazing to have you. Welcome. Maybe before we get into why you're in Germany and your amazing gallery display that you have on there, let's just get a little recap on your 3D African Masks project, what inspired you to do it, and yeah, your kind of journey so far. So welcome, Kofi.
Thanks for the opportunity once again. This is exciting times, like for me and most creatives. For me, getting into the space, it was I think that the earlier period when I understood what the blockchain is, I was trying to bring my product design background with fashion, with sneaker design, footwear into the space earlier, but then again, when I had deeper understanding of what the blockchain is, and most importantly, to record history, I realized the opportunity I have to change a narrative. And the narrative was to kind of like straighten African stories that have been distorted, right? And with reference to African masks, I felt it was important to do this. I think it is also because I'm a trained designer. So most designers solve problems, So the whole idea is I was looking at this opportunity, and I was thinking about how to solve a problem with it, which earlier was also triggered by 2019 when I was graduating in November 2019. I was graduating for my second degree, and I met with, on the day of graduation, there was a lecture. It was a public lecture by Professor Donald McLeod, and he has been a caretaker for a series of museums around the world, in Scotland, in the UK, and even in Ghana for the Ashanti King, right? So he spoke about restitution of African artifacts, so to speak. And then he mentioned that there was going to be a time where there's going to be a technology where you can sign up in a 3D space. He didn't use the word metaverse. I'm sure nobody knew back then. So there was going to be that opportunity where people can actually walk into 3D spaces. And he even mentioned that people can pay to log on to go and view. Like galleries can do that. And so for graduates that day, the opportunity is there for us as graduates that day to take up this opportunity of creating these spaces, and putting these stolen works there, right? To spark conversations, to even bring back the real ones. And I understood what he was saying because I was remodeling African masks and printing them on t-shirts for my fashion line, OBJ Clothing. So when he said that, I was like, wow, okay, then let me go check the backstories for every mask. And lo and behold, I realized there were reasons for every single mask. And I was asking myself, how did we get here for us to be so afraid of our mask? Not only the series of young people and even adults. are afraid of African masks. I think it's, it's colonization and all these
Of
things
course.
and planning to, destroy or distort. And so you don't even look at an indigenous work to even create a house, because people look at animals and draw cars. Why can't you look at a mask and create an architectural building, right? Or
Right.
anything. So I felt we're losing out shunning indigenous works. So that was how the whole thing came up. But it was employing my design thinking ideas, my problem solving mentality from being trained as a designer. And that is where the whole thing picked up. For the blockchain being somewhere that a place where you can put information where even when all of us are dead and gone, it's still going to be there. This is an opportunity to change the narrative. So that is what I thought of using the blockchain for.
So when you first kind of got introduced to the NFT community and the NFT space, that was kind of the first thing that came to you, because you already had this kind of mindset of how am I going to preserve these stories, and so it kind of clicked pretty quickly for you.
Yes, it did. It did. I have really loved to look into all the tribes in Africa. Every single tribe on the continent has their kind of music, kind of fashion, kind of dance, their way of living. So many different kinds of culture. Even though we are like the same group, there are like 3,000 tribes, but the language groups are just 7. So that tells you that yes, they are the same people. It's just a little bit diverse because the same people that split up.
Right.
So every single person from each tribe has their own motives for designs or whatever. So I was looking into that and being inspired and getting ideas to create motifs for my fashion line. It was a street fashion brand, and so when the idea of being able to change the narrative came with the blockchain, and because of what I was already doing and what Professor McCloud said that day, everything clicked. Everything was like, like that.
That's beautiful. Right place, right time.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's super exciting, man. And I like I said, I often quote your collection as an example of how, when anybody who would say that NFTs are a scam or all that FUD, I just point to your collection. I'm like, there's no possible negativity that can come out of this amazing NFT collection. And beyond telling amazing stories and keeping this cultural significant kind of artwork on the blockchain and preserved immutably forever, you're also creating revenue that's helping your community, right? Do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Right. That's thank you for that. Yesterday I went with my gallery owner here in Germany, and we went to a shop where all the artworks in the shop were made by mentally unstable children. And when the shop owner told me, I was about to cry. Like I had goose pimples all over. And it was, I'm still gonna have goose pimples right now. But that is one thing that is really dear to my heart, because when I was growing up, I never had people I could ask certain questions. I remember my brother, my cousin telling me that, oh, you're going to do art, you end up by the roadside, painting boxes for people and things like, So I told him I was going to prove him wrong, and I knew that wasn't the end of art or design. So I told myself that one day I'm going to set up a hub, a space where I'm going to train young people up. Young people could come to me and ask me any question, or their parents would come to me and ask me anything about art or design or any creative industry. And so 2017, I started building the space, but I had to go to school. The master's program was 2 years. So I spent 2 years in school, and when I came back, my money was finished. Like I couldn't complete the building. And sometimes it was like sad moments. I was like, man, how can I do this? And you're going to hear people saying, yo, you had money to build a house for yourself and you're going to build something for other people, like that's a crazy thought. You should have just built something for yourself.
Right.
But that's what I really wanted to do, because I knew through that I'm going to build a house one day. It could be anything. you know? So
No doubt.
I was like, this is what I want to do. And, I was able to make it happen, complete the space by selling NFTs. And it was a mind blower. Even up to today, it is something that always intrigues me that I was able to do that because of this technology. These kids come in, and I remember when I wanted to even touch a computer at a point in time in my life, there was nobody to help me or to allow me. These kids would come in and use my iPad, use the internet, their homework. The place is air conditioned. They can come in and sit and
Nice.
relax, and then it makes me happy, And
That's
then I have friends who are like age mates or even younger than me a little bit. They could, and even adults coming in to use the internet because it's also difficult to get really good internet at certain prices. And all these were possible because of NFTs. And even being here in Germany is because of
right.
NFTs.
Exactly. That's beautiful, man. I love it. So sorry, before we get to Germany, on that space that you've created now in Ghana, that you said it was attached to a university, right? Or is it just its own standalone kind of technology hub?
Yeah, it was a standalone
Okay.
technology hub, but I always had students, coming in every time because it's like at a vantage spot where there are students always passing by
Okay.
in front of the hub. So that was also a good thing.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So, yeah, I would love to hear about how NFTs, so this amazing, historically relevant NFT collection, has now brought you to Germany. Please share a bit of the background on that and then tell us a bit about what you're exactly doing in Germany. I think you said you're there for 3 months. You're on month 2 right now, right?
Right.
So, yeah,
Right.
share the backstory. How'd you get there and how did your NFTs get you there?
Thanks. So this is like in reference to another story that happened in 2007. The BBC contacted me to design the first ever BBC Africa Radio Awards, and
Hmm.
it was held in Kenya. And then there was also the African Footballer of the Year. I made a trophy. It's the same thing. Like when you keep working. I was in this internet cafe in 2007. I just graduated from school, and I was a teaching assistant in the university. So when we left, had the opportunity to get to an internet cafe. At the time, there was internet cafes. They were not like internet wasn't like really rampant like it is. So
Mhm.
you go to a space where you use the internet, but you are timed. So when it's your time, when the time is up, you leave.
You
So
get
I
20
was,
minutes of internet and you're cut off.
yeah. So I was there and I was watching 3D modeling tutorials. I didn't have a computer, so I go to the it was a crazy thing. I go to the internet cafe and watch tutorials with my eyes and go back home and imagine the software. Can you imagine?
Wow. Those are the days, hey?
By and sees me every time. Passes by and said, "What are you doing?" And oh, this is 3D, and I think it's gonna be big very soon. It's like, okay. So this guy, fast forward, gets to the UK, and he met somebody who works at BBC, and the person asked, "We want to do BBC Africa Radio Awards. Do you know anyone that can do it?" He said, "Yo, when I was in Ghana, I saw this guy watching stuff that was crazy, but I think by now he's been able to do something with it." That was like after like that was in 1999, 2000.
Wow.
Fast 2000, 2007, and I was contacted. So that's what happened.
That's
Same thing
wild.
happened with one. It's crazy. Same thing. These guys decide to come up with a gallery in Germany, and they are recruiting artists, right? And they want an artist in residency. And this person who has seen these masks, the NFTs, the
Mhm.
noise we made, is like, I've seen this guy doing something different. And he's also 3D printing too. And then he shows my profile to the gallery owner, and he's like, bring this guy here. We need him here. This is different.
Wow.
You know, so that was how the whole thing started. And then at first I thought it was, it wasn't anything serious, but they were like, "Yo, it's like real. We need you here." And lo and behold, that actually brought me here. So it's keeping to the work and making sure I'm a master at it. eventually, most of the barriers will melt down for you to go through.
No doubt. So what was that like, your initial kind of conversation with, I guess it would be the gallery owner, right? And
right.
Yeah. So
right.
Obviously they found that you had something, your NFTs, your artistic direction had something they needed. So what was that kind of like, without, sharing any details you can't share, but I'd love to just hear, like, how did they kind of tackle that? Like, so you have these art pieces in concept on the blockchain right now, and we'd really love to see them IRL. What was that conversation like, and what have you done since to try? Because I think I saw on Twitter you actually 3D printed one of them. So I'd love to hear about that. But yeah, what was that initial conversation like?
The initial conversation was, these masks are so appealing. We can actually print them. They call them posters here. We can actually print them on posters and frame them, and like in editions, and sell them in the gallery, right? So that was the initial idea, because the masks really look appealing. Like, they really look good. Yeah. So that was his first, interest. That ticked him, to want to know more. And then he got to know I had 3D printed some of them. And then he was like, oh, he was also thinking about a sculptor being a resident artist. So this is like, this guy is making, and he knows NFTs too. Okay. This guy is making digital art and still 3D printing whatever is being modeled in 3D. That's crazy. So that was the IRL thing was the best trigger. Like, oh, he's making digital and he's printing the same thing too. That's crazy. Yeah, so that was the whole thing.
That's the phygital. So once you figured out that you had already thought about the 3D piece, so it's interesting. It was born in the digital, it's 3D printed. Now it's in the physical, as we call it in the space, the phygital. So how do you see that going? And how many masks have you 3D printed now at this point?
Right. So first of all, the files for 3D printing would have to be prepared. Most of the files in 3D that I modeled were like open geometry, files. So they have to be closed, So I had to prepare that. That took some time. And last week was Messe Karlsruhe. That's Karlsruhe Art Fair, right? Messe means fair. I was able to print 5 masks. And somebody came to our booth, and he said, so you came from Ghana with no 3D printer, you bought a 3D printer here in Germany, you assembled it and used it to print your mask? I said, yes. He said, give me your card. And my gallery owner was like, you can take the gallery's number and email.
That's amazing, funny. Man.
Yeah. So he even made me aware of how serious this is. I thought it was, yes, a phygital. Preparing the files took some time. It took like a month to prepare like all the files for 3D printing, because originally those files were not 3D printing ready, so to speak. So I had to do that, and then we sent it to the fair. There were 5 masks. It was excellent. It was a great thing. People came to our booth and said that, look, we've gone to all the pavilions. There were 4 pavilions, huge places the size of a football field, with different galleries having their booth, and people keep telling us that your booth is different. And I think the reason why it's different is because all the artworks in there were from African artists, with the mask, which is also, something from Africa, but with, technology-based approach. So the feedback was excellent.
Wow, that's amazing. So people responded to the phygital, essentially, the fact that it was born out of the digital, right? And now you got these amazing 3D mask creations. So I was actually just able to pull up a picture from your Twitter to show these beautiful pieces. So anybody watching the live stream or the video will have the advantage of seeing some of these. There's 3 of them here. Especially the circular one is just breathtaking, man. The geometry on it and the symmetry. It's really, really beautiful, man. So we did get a cool question. I want to say shout out to Triple T. Thanks for the question, man. Thanks for joining. So without getting too political, he's just asking, do you think that there's a way that countries in Africa can take advantage of the blockchain and maybe other Web3 angles to hopefully grow their economy in a genuine way, right? Because, that's when the blockchain was written. Satoshi Nakamoto, white paper on the blockchain was very specific to the fact that, Western countries and specifically American financial regulations or lack of regulations can actually torpedo the entire world economy, right? So the main genesis of Bitcoin, which was the genesis of Web3 and the blockchain cryptocurrency as we know it, was built specifically to help developing countries kind of break free of the shackles of American and Western financial reliance, essentially. So to that point, yes, for sure. The goal is for blockchain and Web3 to help these countries in Africa and other developing countries find an off-ramp or a more reliable kind of form of currency, I would say. But what do you think, Kofi?
Excellent. Look, I wouldn't be here without the blockchain. If there was no blockchain, I don't know how I would have been able to do this, and there's more to come. Like, this is only me. Imagine there are like 100 of people like me who have been able to be supported and have built spaces like maybe STEM spaces where people could come to, learn something, right? Because as it were, I used to be an assistant lecturer. The syllables in most of the universities are old. And what is happening now in tech, before they get into books to be written down and, made into syllabus to be taught, 10 years. So it is we have the onus is on us who are early in the space to be able to teach other people to take advantage. At least if you have one person in a community like me trying to do something to help the community, everything is going to change. Because I would never have been here if it wasn't because of, this technology, which I so really appreciate. And I want to teach also other young people to be able to take advantage of it. And even what I'm doing is just a tip of the iceberg, So imagine we introduce software developing of these, code-based creative jobs, to young people. 3D modeling, animation, so many aspects, even marketing, Web3 marketing of, let's say, a project. There's so many opportunities. And this is remote. All they need is internet, which bypasses all the barriers, which has been, placed in most places where...
Right. And who doesn't have internet these days, really? I mean, that's one thing. Even some of the most poorest communities are getting access through mobile,
right,
through to very affordable internet access. And that's all you need to take advantage of this blockchain. Triple T, I believe, is joining us from South Africa. So he's also on the continent. So he's definitely curious. Fellow gamer as well. So yeah, that's a great question, Triple T, and that's a big part of why I'm hosting this Web3 Warriors. Just last week we talked to Ice. He's an artist from Nigeria. Now we're talking to Kofi again, who's rooted in Ghana, currently in Germany. So yeah, it's a huge part of the show that we're putting on here as far as Web3 Warriors and the potential. And when you hear people, voicing skepticism towards NFTs and blockchain and cryptocurrency, a lot of that is valid. A lot of the noise, a lot of the less attractive elements of the Web3 space do exist, and if you're just looking to get into the space to get rich quick, you're probably going to get scammed. You're probably going to end up losing money. But if you take that part out of it and you look at like, okay, who's actually making a difference on the ground? You know, how are people actually benefiting from this technology? And when you start looking at that, you'll find stories like Kofi's here. You'll find stories like Ice, Xeon. We've had people from Malaysia. We've had people from India. And you're going to find so many of these stories of people who weren't making a name for themselves, weren't having reliable income coming in, who are now building in the metaverse, creating 3D assets, building amazing art projects on the blockchain, NFTs. So yeah, it's just have to look in the right corners because there is a lot of noise. There's a lot of misinformation. So that's what I would say to anybody who, you know, maybe you're speaking to about, hey, maybe we should create some art and put it on the blockchain. If they voice skepticism, you can just point them towards us, point them towards the Web3 Warriors and, you know, these amazing examples of what's possible. So on the topic of phygital, you know, like it's really exciting to think about the fact that you took these stories from these tribes and these art pieces of culturally significant masks, minted them on the blockchain first, created amazing artworks, you know, 3D artworks, minted them on the blockchain, and then that resonated. You know, you're at, I think, over 11 Ethereum in sales, and you continue to sell more. But more importantly than even the sales is just the message, right? It's the reverberation kind of throughout the art community, and not just the digital art, the NFT art community, but as you're showing, the wider art community, right? I think that's so exciting. How do you see that evolving, Kofi? Like, do you think this is going to be more and more of a trend of like the blockchain influencing real life?
Yeah, I definitely. I think so. It also comes with phygital, right? and I met with somebody in Amsterdam who saw the masks. I was in Amsterdam, I think almost a month ago, and the person was saying, "Yo, Kofi, you know something?" I said, "No." He said, "You know these galleries, these museums, some of them are returning your art to Africa." I said, "Yes." He said, "What if they come for your 3D printed masks?" I was like, "Oh, that's true." You know, so okay, return the real ones and come for 3D printed ones, right? I mean, it makes sense. But the one of the most important things is the phygital aspect. And the kind of buzz we create in the space is definitely going to like resonate in the physical space. So I think this is going to happen. There's more of it that is going to happen. Personally, and I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to do this. Give me a second.
Okay. You know, it's interesting because I remember when, you know, the Bored Ape Yacht Club and that were blowing up in these certain PFP projects that are less than impressive, I would say, on the artistic side. And people were really worried that that was going to be influencing the more general art space. I'm glad to see that's not the case, but what do you got there?
So, see this?
Wow. Oh my goodness. Is that a mask on your shoe?
Exactly. This is a sneaker I've been working on for 8 years. Beautiful. And nobody seen this in Ghana. People probably saw the outsole, but the outsole motif is a mask. And this is yet to come out, right? And I'm developing a whole clothing line for African mask collectors. That is going to be our profit.
That's next level, like, man.
Line, sneaker, sliders, jackets, bomber jackets, sweatpants, so many different. This is like what I used to do, like originally, right?
Well, that's your real passion there.
Like this is me. So I'm bringing it back. Like you can see OBJ clothing. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh yeah.
That's my handle.
Beautiful, man.
So I've been working on like footwear for like 20 years, but I'm showing you this because like I'm kind of like touched, and I'm seeing the possibilities with the physical, you know, and the digital. And so the possibilities are huge. Stuff happening in the digital space can easily be moved to data can be moved to the physical space, and that is going to be possible. So I'm really working, and I have to show you this because I'm in the mood. Probably this, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. The things I can do with design and art and rewarding, especially those who have supported me till here. I only pray to God for life. That's all.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, actually, as far as, would the holders be able to get a discount on your amazing line of mask-inspired clothing?
Right, definitely. And I'm going to, as soon as I'm done with this particular brand line of products, fashion products, I'm actually going to have like discussions with the community, the mask holders, how we can take this, how we can move this, because this is going to be for us.
Yeah, that's so exciting, man.
Yeah, all of us. And it's going to be like something for mask holders, and even when I'm not available, they should know what they should do with this. And I have to, organize a team and then make this happen so that all of us can share the profits, however it's going to be done. Because I believe strongly without their support, I wouldn't be here. And this is also making other people pay attention to African masks and have begun to love it and have begun to see it as design triggering tools or ideas where they can look at them and create stuff in real life. And that is what should happen,
Sure.
So so definitely this is going to be big.
That's so exciting, man. I'm so happy for you because I can see the empire, man. I can see the African Masks empire and like it being built in such a cool, decentralized way. And like you said, acknowledging that the NFT, your collectors, your NFT community has propelled you and kind of helped push this whole initiative forward, right? And like you just said earlier, you wouldn't even be in Germany right now, showing your art and selling and having this opportunity to really kind of connect to like that kind of old school collector base, right? And then they're able to learn from you about like, wow, this is what's happening on the blockchain, like really. Right?
That's it.
Yeah, super exciting. So on that point, I think it's really interesting because now you're talking IRL clothing, and once you have the IRL clothing, you can almost loop back around and put that IRL clothing into the metaverse and have metaverse wearables that are also themed with the mask. So that was a question I had for you as far as what are your thoughts on the metaverse and where you're going or what you see happening in the metaverse with your masks.
This is the plan. I got AR and some brothers to help me with some tutorials with Blender because I'm really gonna be efficient with Blender, right? So I've done most of the tutorials. I'm left with practicing. I just haven't had time to practice. I understand Blender now. I understand the whole setup. I just haven't practiced. I just need to practice, and boom, the wearables will start. So when I safely, get to Ghana, I'm actually going to lock myself for 6 months and master Blender, and then the wearables will begin for only mask collectors for free. That's it. And then we start looking into how to produce, the real life product, in a way that everybody's going to benefit.
Okay, so you're actually looking at doing wearables first then, if I'm understanding correctly.
I mean, both of them could be like
parallel. Yeah, let's go. You're taking on a lot, Kofi, but it's super inspiring, man. Like I think that's really exciting. So Blender, I guess Unity would be another thing you might need to learn for the wearables.
Right. I probably need somebody to. I'm sure there's going to be somebody in the community that can do that. So
yeah.
And I think teamwork, right?
Sorry, yeah. Once you know Blender, I think Unity is a little bit easier too.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but it is a bit different from what I gather. But that's super exciting, man. I can't wait for those wearables, especially if it's getting airdropped to me. That's the best kind of wearable.
Yeah, they're going to be sick. Trust me. Like I've been running a clothing line from like 1998. From when I was in senior secondary school, it's the same clothing line that I've been running since. I didn't even understand what I was doing. And I kept doing it till today. And I was designing footwear and clothing accessories and so many different things, And then from 2009, 2010, my designs changed because I began to look into Afrocentric designs. and that's when the success came. That's what I
That's
believe.
beautiful. So you tapped in with the ancestors, and they're pushing you forward, man.
Yeah, that was what I did. I remember I think I was still in school, and I had Fela's discography, so I was listening to
Nice,
Fela.
yeah. I know what that can do to your psyche.
And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
So that was where it started. And I mean,
Yeah.
everything has changed. Everything began to have meaning. I could speak about every single detail. So, I mean, eventually when Professor McCloud spoke about restitution, I understood what he was saying.
It's funny you say that, because on the last episode, Ice was actually wearing a Fela Kuti shirt. I didn't mention it, but he was wearing Fela on his shirt, and now you're here mentioning him. So it's a good inspiration. We got the Afrobeat, an Afrobeat legend, the creator. And anyone who doesn't know, look him up. That's Fela Kuti, Fela Kuti. It's a very amazing Nigerian musician and the creator of the Afrobeat sound, and very revolutionary activist in his own right as well. So a lot of inspirational things for those who came out of the colonial era of Africa. And, I think Kofi's project specifically is very much about kind of undoing a lot of the more negative impacts of that colonial era, and taking more pride in our culture as Africans, and really just promoting the stories of these different tribal pieces of art, and the reasoning and the meaning behind them, which are really inspiring and profound, and not negative or scary, or any reason to be really taboo at all. But yeah, really cool, man. I've learned so much from what you've got going on here. I was curious, I just want to get your thought on, we alluded to it earlier, but specifically, how are NFTs kind of impacting your home country in Ghana, and how do you see it evolving? Are there a lot of other artists? I think I've seen some on Twitter from Ghana, in the NFT space, but in general, how do you feel the industry is impacting your country?
So far so good. We had an exhibition. We had a Ghanaian NFT community exhibition, and we had some brothers and sisters making sales, right?
Nice.
It was intriguing to everyone that it was real. Like, this guy said he had to wait. Michael, he said he had to wait for 7 days for his computer to render. So,
wow.
I heard that, I was like, yo, look, I'm going to help you to, get a new computer. So his works were bought. But we started with a community. We are going to have a summit in December when we have all the blessings. We'll have like an NFT and crypto. There's a crypto Ghana community that is also educating, Ghanaians, and making sure people are not scammed, in the community, crypto Ghana community. And us, the Ghanaian NFT community, we're going to have like a summit or a conference, and then we'll educate more people. So we have, the community is growing gradually, but we have to do a lot of work and a lot of education. So I'm also bringing my teaching practice here.
Nice.
Because
nice.
I'm not teaching again. So that's what I want to do. I've developed PowerPoint presentations on all these disruptive technologies, and even how to develop talent yourself and things like that, like personal development. And we are going to have series of conferences, because if it was able to change my life and series of other people, it's definitely going to change a lot of people. Because like, I did not come from like a very wealthy home. It was like hustle from beginning, and there are a lot of people still hustling, or make ends meet. But now it's mind game, right? It's mind game with internet. So I think if we educate and train our people to master a craft, whether it's coding or art or whatever it is, I think that they'll be able to fend for themselves, and the ripple effect is going to help everyone.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So if you say you already have an Ghanaian NFT community, how many members would you say you have in that community so far?
Yeah, I think about 50.
Okay, that's awesome, man. You know, because I'm looking at there's a lot of cities. Like I'm in my own city. We're talking about doing some stuff locally here. I've met maybe two other people from my city or from my province here, in Manitoba, which is
Wow.
bigger. Manitoba, our province, is much bigger than the country of Ghana. So, you know, I'm inspired that you guys are already taking that initiative, and that in just a small country of Ghana, you already have that Ghanaian NFT community started up, and you're rolling forward. So you're ahead of me already. I'm looking to do something like that locally here, in my own city in Winnipeg. So that's really exciting, man. That's really awesome. That's what I was curious about. You know, like, is it something that is already, you know, kind of grassroots level being built? And it sounds like it is.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to happen. And we're going to have our first meetup this December. And so everything is fine. And there are so many, you know, players. There are augmented reality experts, you know, like so many different kinds of people who are in the community. And it's so exciting. So, but the major thing is education. When people understand the the possibilities with the blockchain, then it means that we are empowering them to be able to pave way for themselves. We have to teach them how to fish. We don't have to be fishing for them every day. So I
Right,
think it's
exactly.
so that we will even save ourselves from the stress, from teaching the same thing over and over again. So we have to find a way to make it easier and for them to be able to also be empowered to be able to teach other people. So that's what we want.
No doubt. Wow, that's super exciting, man. Kudos to you. So are you the president of the NFT Ghanaian community, or what? Is there a
So
president yet?
we don't have one yet, but most
There we go. Kofi for president. No, that's super exciting. Another thing I was curious about, because of how profound, you know, historically significant, culturally significant your collection is, have you been hearing from other people, maybe on the African continent, but maybe even more internationally, that are trying to do a similar type of thing, where they're trying to preserve culture or tell those historically significant stories? Like, do you think that you're personally impacting others to do it, or have you seen others maybe who even did it at the same time as you or alongside you that you'd like to mention?
Well, when I got into the space, I couldn't find anyone doing anything of that sort. It was
Mm.
after I think 3 months, I saw a project, but it was a PFP project, and really nicely modeled mask with great effects, but there were no stories attached to them. But after some 2 months, they began to add the stories to the mask. So I was happy. And then this brother from Nigeria also contacted me, and he said he also wanted to, you know, recapture sculpture pieces, and he wanted to work with me. But I couldn't really model faster because of the software I use. So I told him I have to master my Blender so that we can really work. But I did some couple of works. And then from there, I've been seeing so many digitally restituting, you know, African artifacts. And I've seen some Nigerian brothers doing it for the Benin culture, which
Nice.
from the beginning, maybe I did not see them. I'm sure they were probably doing it, but I didn't see them. You know, it
And you
was
don't have
later
much
that
for Benin masks in your collection, hey?
no, there isn't any Benin mask
Hmm.
yet. It's the Queen Idia. It's even not a mask. It was a sculpture piece, a small sculpture piece of the Queen Idia, which was made. With there are three of them. One is in British Museum. I think one is in the Met. One is in France, a museum in France. So that is what I've worked on, but I haven't really done any sculpture from the Benin culture yet.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because they were really known for their copper work, right? Like really next level,
Yeah, yeah,
amazing metal sculptures.
extreme, extreme life size. These guys were casting life size,
Wow.
like sculpture pieces
Yeah, it
in
was
bronze.
fascinating.
It's crazy. There's a casting village in Ghana. The university used to go to them to teach us the traditional lost wax casting method, because there's a way they do it with
Mm,
clay slip and ground charcoal to have some kind of texture on the cast piece,
interesting.
and see the kind of fire they have to, you know, make to melt the brass for it to be liquid, for them to pour it in the cavity, you know, to creates the cast piece. And these guys in Benin were like casting like life size.
It's wild what they did, the stuff I saw. And those colonialists melted down a whole bunch of it too, unfortunately, and stole a whole bunch of it too.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's wild, but that's a whole. I feel like that. Well, I mean, there was that one collection, the Ancient Warriors, spoke to Benin and spoke to that history a little bit. But I do think, like, from a purely artistic perspective, if somebody, I mean, probably ideally someone who has that cultural background, but to actually take the specific, you know, brass and copper kind of like art that they did and make it into 3D on the blockchain, just specifically for Benin, that would be next level, man. I'd love to see someone take that on.
That would be awesome. I think I've seen one brother doing something.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'd love to see it. It could exist already. I mean, it should exist for sure.
Yeah, but you know, it's another thing is sometimes you want to sell. Like, people want to sell, right?
Yeah.
They want to. So they create these works, but the sales don't come, right? Even though they are representing, you know, these lost artifacts. So that's also another thing. So if you're only in for the money sometimes and you don't make the sale after doing such great work, normally you might want to back down. But if you are what the blockchain is for, and you tell yourself, I'm doing this for my people, and yes, I'm going to market. If I make the sale, that's fine. But if I don't, I'm still going to do it. Then you're okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be discouraging for sure, especially when your art is amazing and for whatever reason, like maybe the price is a little bit high or maybe people just aren't seeing it, you know, whatever the case may be, and it doesn't sell. I've definitely seen people. Actually, the first artist that I collected, the first one of one piece, I think it was actually the first NFT I ever bought, was a one of one art piece that was amazing, but I think I was the only one to purchase a piece from her, and she kind of just stepped away because she wasn't able to sell regularly, you know, so she kind of just took a step back, and it was discouraging. You know, I can understand why she was discouraged, but it's disappointing for me as a collector. I'm like, oh, you know, your art is amazing. If you were just out there telling people a bit more, maybe you'd sell more, you know, but I'm not going to tell her that, you know. It's not my place to say you should be doing XYZ, you know. And there are some collectors who get that way with their artists, which I think is so crazy. And they start trying to tell the artist, well, you should be doing this or you should be doing that to help increase the value of your art. It's like, that is not the role of a collector.
I think what is happening is, the advantage I have is I'm a designer, right? So being a designer, so there's a skill that, you know, we used to teach students when I was teaching. There's a skill, and on the far end of this skill is art, on the other far end is engineering or science. Designers are in the middle. So designers pick emotions and pick, you know, engineering and put them together, or bring those two areas together. So even though I'm making art, it's still functional, and there's a reason why I'm doing the art. There's a why. Why are you doing the art? And the why is not the money. The money is the result. Why are you doing this? So that even if you don't make money, you're still going to do it. You know, most artists are trained to be only on the emotional side. You know, so when you look up design, like, design means planning. Design doesn't mean drawing or anything like that. So you plan something. So if you're thinking you're coming into the space, you need to probably look at design thinking, the design thinking module. Look at how you can apply that into the space, even though you're an artist, so that it wouldn't be like you're here to sell, only to sell. Of course, you're here, but if it's only to sell, you're going to get discouraged. For now, what are you also going to give collectors? I see. Look, if you have a PFP project and you make $2 million or $1 million, or you make hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's investment money. It will be nice to one day bring value to what your collectors have invested money in. There's nothing wrong with that. It's nice to be able to do that, you know? And so, I mean, people jump in. Like, the advantage we had also was on Clubhouse. You know, we had you guys who were teaching us so many different things, and you guys are still teaching us. a lot of people got into the space and they didn't have that advantage. They had Twitter Spaces. Twitter Spaces is not teaching anyone anything.
I don't disagree.
So that's what I'm thinking. Like, so well, that's another conversation. But
hey, I'm open to it. Yeah, what we're doing on Clubhouse, especially with the Dream Conduit DAO, really focused on helping people onboard and educate in the right way, and not be, too focused and crazed on the money, but really looking at the profound kind of immutable implications of your work on the blockchain, and
right.
thinking about it from a more long-term perspective and a more creative perspective that's not necessarily monetarily, like monetary value is not the sole reason, right? And compensation is part of the overall plan, but it's not your reason for creating the art, ideally.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. I was looking at the benefits of the blockchain because I had a talk with I think it was the Kenyan NFT community had an event where they wanted me to speak on effects of disruptive technologies and how not to be left out. And one of the things that through my research I saw about the impact that blockchain can have is in healthcare, finance, insurance, charity, travel, legal issues, cloud, music and media, cybersecurity, energy. So like there's so many aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Most artists, we come in and we are looking at only how to sell art. I think we have to be educated first and understand the importance of the blockchain and the possibilities, and then we will really know how to move. I think that would help. Yeah.
Yeah, and your art maybe should tell a why, right? Like, why does this art live on the blockchain? Like, what's your kind of immutable goal for this art, ideally? Like, where do you see it going? Because collectors want to see a future too, right? Like, definitely, or at least, yeah, some historical value that has provenance, and it's you can look at it and be like, whoa, wow, 10, 20, 30 years from now, people are going to look back and be like, wow, like this stuff was all minted in 2021 and it was so culturally relevant and even technologically significant when you look at like the type of 3D architecture that goes into it, not to mention what the sales allowed, and what happened because of the sales that started with this one project, yeah, really exciting. So on that point, I know we're hitting that hour mark. I want to respect your time there, Kofi. Anybody in the chat who does have any final last minute questions, feel free to ask them. I was just going to ask actually about your next new collection, but I think we already tackled that when you were talking about the wearables and some of the IRL things that you've kind of got in the works. Is that what's kind of next on the horizon for Kofi? Is there anything else on the blockchain? You're just going to keep selling these 3D African masks and pushing that whole thing forward?
I'm actually going to work on, I'm working on some new masks, but
okay.
They are, some new tribes that I discovered, that masks. So I want to put out that story because that's the reason. I have a friend who has he's not really well. He has a disease with I think it's kidney. So I want to put out that collection to support him. So that's one thing I'm working on. But there's also a friend of mine that has an NGO who are helping treat malaria amongst children in some village areas in Ghana. So that collection would definitely, be to them. Anybody that supports that, but definitely they are going to be part of the African Mask Collectors team that is also going to benefit from, the phygitals or the wearables that I'm going to create after I master my blender. So
nice. I can't wait, man. That's gonna be season 3, Kofi. We're gonna get you back a third time. You'll be telling us all about your metaverse wearables. Let's go. That's exciting, man. That's amazing. I think that the technology is continuing to advance and evolve, but I think you're on the cutting edge, and I can't wait to see what you're building next. So as I always kind of ask, wrapping up, what is your advice for other creators out there, maybe for people specifically coming from this kind of cultural background, wanting to maybe mint stories, share stories on the blockchain? What's your advice to people that are just hesitating or not really seeing the value in the space? What do you think should be kind of first steps to try to look at your best way to kind of build on the blockchain?
First step, they need to understand why the blockchain is here and understand the possibilities that the blockchain has for us to do good. They have to understand that. That's the first point. The second point is that when they are able to master their craft, all the barriers will melt down.
Love it. That's it, right? It's a bit of a steep learning curve, but once you get there, you've got carte blanche, complete freedom, carve out, start small. Don't be too obsessed with these sales, especially initially. Find your right sweet spot, but then you get to grow from there, right? And it's really exciting. And you get to meet a lot of other artists who are doing the same thing. I would add, install the Clubhouse app if you're open to it, because there's a lot of educational value on there. I know it's not as poppin' and popular as it was maybe this time last year, but from the educational NFT blockchain perspective, like I said, you got the Dream Conduit DAO, you got Blockchain Gospel, you got Neighborhood Jewelry. I mean, just with those three groups alone, you can have a lot of entertainment and educational value just by jumping onto Clubhouse there. So I'll add that as well. But yeah, to your point, Kofi, definitely understand the why. What is significant about blockchain technology? Why is it better than selling my art on Etsy? Trying to set up a Patreon for my community to donate to me. This is all of those things wrapped into one and completely owned by your own sovereign wallet. And the compensation you get is usually anywhere from like 90 to 95% of the initial sales, right? And that is completely not comparable to any other content creation platforms out there. You're not going to get that percentage. You're going to have middlemen telling you what to do and maybe trying to push you with their algorithm in one direction or the other direction. And at that point, are you really being your truest self? Are you really creating just for the sake of creating and for building something that you're passionate about? Or are you just trying to fit into the algorithm and up your views as much as possible, right? It's that balance. So that's what it's about. This is what that Web3 space is about. It's really just direct value, and offering the value is very clear, the art is very clear, the creativity is clear, and your community will respect that and purchase it and support you and go from there. What do you think, Kofi?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's all. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate your input. I think we covered a lot of really valuable ground here, especially for anybody looking to mint culturally significant NFT collections. You can also reach out to us at web3warriors@gmail.com. You can follow Kofi on Twitter at OBJClothing. And yeah, we're really looking forward to your metaverse wearables and your next collections, man. And all the best. It's really inspiring what you're doing with your 3D African masks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks to all the collectors, and there's more coming. All we need is life.
That's it. That's it. We keep going. All right. Thanks so much, man. Until next time, we'll catch you all in the metaverse. Take care.
Okay. Thanks.